Hey guys, it's Ryan here. Welcome back to Film Zone, a place to talk movies, TV, and everything in between. So today I will be ranking all of the 10 Illumination films so far, including The Secret Life of Pets 2, from worst to best. Please remember that this is just my opinion that I am sharing with you guys, and that I enjoy discussing these things with all of you and having a nice, lively conversation. But please, let's just be respectful when doing so. Now before we get into this video, if you're new here, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting, as well as turning on the notification bell so you can see all of my latest content as soon as it comes out. Now with that said, let's get started. So coming in last place for me is The Lorax. Now none of these Illumination films I would consider horrible, but this movie just really didn't do it for me. Now, none of it was awful, and there were some good moments and themes that I could relate to, but it never really kept me entertained. There was no need for this film. Illumination just used it as a cash grab, which I really didn't care for. None of the songs were really catchy, and the villain, Mr. O'Hare, wasn't very good. Taylor Swift and Zac Efron as these leads were pretty good. The plotline was decently compelling, but the script and the way they captured the movie, in my opinion, wasn't the best way they could have done it, which is why I'm giving this movie a 6.7 out of 10. Next up is number 9. Now for me, coming in at number 9 would be Minions. For me, like number 10, this movie was not necessary. The story was pretty compelling and I liked the villain, but overall I thought the movie wasn't the greatest. The Minions are some of the best supporting characters on the TV screen today, but that's just it. They're meant to be side characters, not the stars of their own movie. At times I enjoyed some of the juvenile jokes about butts and all that stuff, but even eventually the humor got boring. Even though the movie started out really slow, it did get more interesting at some points, and it moved at a nice brisk pace towards the end, getting a solid 7.1 out of 10. But still, in my opinion, this is the worst and most pointless movie in the Despicable Me franchise. Next up is number 8. Now coming in at number 8 would probably be Despicable Me 2. And don't get me wrong, I still like this movie and I enjoy the characters, but I also think this movie has such a crazy and unintriguing plotline that it loses my attention at some parts. In this second installment to the franchise, the writers created a love interest for Gru, sending her in to basically spy on him, which I found enjoyable at moments, and I thought the conversation between the two was pretty good. The girls, Minions, and Gru, like always, are as awesome as ever with their witty jokes and classic hijinks. And speaking of hijinks, I enjoyed some of the hijinks that go around in the movie. I really do. But the villain, I don't really even remember the villain, which explains a lot because it's not a very memorable one. And the storyline of turning the Minions into purple evil minions was not a great plot point for the movie either. Overall, I think this movie can be enjoyable, and it isn't the worst movie in the franchise, but it definitely isn't the best, earning a 7.4 out of 10. Next up is number 7. Now, in my opinion, coming in at number 7 is Hop. This movie was Illumination's only attempt at mixing live action with some animated CGI. Russell Brand plays this fun British bunny destined to become the next Easter bunny, but would rather just rock and roll, where he meets his human, who doesn't know his place in the world either, and they team up to find who they are and achieve what they want to achieve. I found this movie to be enjoyable, but also a little far-fetched. I think the humor and the storyline for most part were good, but I thought the mix of animation with real life was a little too messy with the designs of the characters and all. While it is out of nowhere the best movie, it kept me entertained, so it does its job, earning a decent 7.7 out of 10. Coming in sixth place is Illumination's other adaptation of the Dr. Seuss books, this one being The Grinch. Now, I found this movie to be a lot better than the Lorax, keeping me laughing and entertained throughout, but I definitely had that feel that it wasn't needed and again was just an attempt to get money. The movie had some of the classic Dr. Seuss world building with the Who's and the weird distinct features, as well as the color scheme of the movie, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch was interesting since he wasn't menacing like the live-action Grinch was, but he did have his good moments. The movie at times was too funny and didn't have many scary hijinks like the live-action one did, which I didn't always care for, but overall this movie was a solid movie that, in my opinion, deserves an 8 out of 10. Next up, coming in at number 5, is the original Secret Life of Pets. This movie was quite enjoyable with some few humorous moments in there, with the main characters being pets and their interactions, especially with the cat Chloe. I did enjoy this movie a little more than The Grinch because I think it had more relatable themes and lessons throughout the story, as well as keeping me a little more engaged. But then again, like with the second movie, as well, there are some obvious parallels between this movie and Toy Story, which can be seen with the overall plot of what do pets do when you're not home versus what do toys do when you're not around, as well as with the new dog coming in compared to Buzz Lightyear entering the house. You can obviously see some parallels, but overall I think it was executed pretty well, earning a solid 8.1 out of 10 with all of its funny and heartfelt moments. Coming in fourth place is Despicable Me 3. I felt the third installment to the series was much better than its second, bringing in many more intriguing storylines. This movie offered us probably the best villain out of the three movies, Balthazar Brat, and built up a backstory and allowed us to see why he does what he does, which we didn't have in the second movie. This movie had some very funny moments with the girls and the minions, as well as some sad and tragic ones as well. The introduction of Gru's brother Drew was also a great addition to the movie, providing some cool interactions and comedic relief. I did, however, feel at times that the movie was too crowded and did have a few too many unnecessary subplots, such as Gru and Lucy losing their jobs, which I didn't really think was needed. But with all that said, this movie was still very entertaining, kept me engaged, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, deserving a pretty good 8.5 out of 10. Awarded the bronze medal is the latest installment to Illumination's palette of movies, The Secret Life of Pets 2. I found this movie to be even more enjoyable than the first, bringing everything I enjoyed about the first movie to a new level. This offered another relatable storyline with Max wanting to protect the new baby and wanting to be tougher in life. Chloe was hilarious in this movie, and I found that the other two side storylines were also entertaining as well. This movie offered a clear villain and established even more new pets into the franchise, including Rooster and Daisy, which I both found to be quite pleasant. Again, the movie reminded me a lot of Toy Story with the road trip and kind of the theme of finding yourself, but I still found it to be enjoyable, and I didn't think it took anything away from the movie. One of my negatives, though, is that, kind of like the first movie, this movie is way too short, barely reaching 80 minutes long, not leaving enough time for much character exposition and development. But overall, the movie is better than the first, earning a very good 8.6 out of 10. Now, coming in second place is the 2016 hit movie, Sing. This movie follows the story of a broke koala that needs to earn money, so he decides to hold a singing competition. I found this movie to be thoroughly enjoyable with a very star-studded cast, featuring Taron Egerton, Tori Kelly, as well as many more, providing relatable themes about finding your voice and expressing yourself, which I really understood and enjoyed. This movie had some humor with Gunther and some of the other animal interactions as well, while adding a few heart-wrenching moments about family and loss, which I really enjoyed. I generally thought this movie moved at a nice, entertaining, brisk pace, which I also found to be a plus. And I did find some of the characters to be annoying at times, but that is a small thing to overlook, since overall I thought this was one of Illumination's best movies and deserves a 9 out of 10. Taking home the gold in this video is Illumination's first film, Despicable Me. Illumination's first film is also, in my opinion, its best. This movie just offers all the laughs and heartfelt moments you could want, from the girl showing up and Gru trying to change his villainous ways and become a father, to the minions and some of their classy hijinks. This movie kept me thoroughly entertained. I will never ever forget the scene where Gru says, "I will grab the moon. I will shrink the moon. I will sit on the toilet," which cracked me up for days. Steve Carell is particularly great in this role, with witty and impeccable timing to all of his one-liners, and he was almost perfect for this job. I can't imagine anyone handling it better. Overall, I believe this movie was the best Illumination has made and rightfully deserves a wonderful 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for all new videos coming soon. If you have any questions or comments, please join me down below to talk about it. See you later!